Good afternoon. Thank you for taking your time today to attend this Unlocking Germany, your gateway to the EU Tech Market Seminar. My name is Raj and I'll be your MC for this wonderful event. First off, may I just kindly request everyone once more to please keep your mobile devices to the silent mode. Additionally, because this event is being videographed, so if anyone is conscious of videos or you want an additional photo for your Facebook, please let me know as well. We will accommodate your request accordingly. We encourage you to actively engage, ask questions, and also connect with our speakers during this interactive session. We are delighted today to bring together distinguished representatives from Germany's trade and investment offices, along with industry leaders, to share their perspectives on the evolving German and European tech ecosystem and opportunities for collaboration. Before we dive into today's session, it is my honor to invite Ms. Jezri Lan, Associate Director, Internationalization at SGTech, to say a few words. Jezri, please.
Everyone, I'm Jezri. So I head the internationalization program at SGTech, and I'm very delighted to see such a good turnout today, this afternoon, as we explore the vast opportunities waiting for Singapore tech companies in Germany and the wider European Union. So today's seminar, Unlocking Germany, your gateway to the EU tech market, is all about bridge building. We know that many of our members here, Germany isn't just a market, right? It's a strategic springboard into the EU and a global leader in innovation. So with over 83 million consumers, it offers the largest domestic market in the EU and a world-class engineering culture that aligns perfectly with Singapore's own tech ambitions. So at SGTech, our mission is to facilitate this growth path. Whether you are in the space of AI, enterprise tech, sustainability, cybersecurity, robotics, etc., the synergy between Singapore agility and Germany industrial scale is a powerful optimization and combination for any company looking to scale globally. So in today's session, you will gain a practical playbook for navigating the Germany market dynamics and the regulatory landscape. You will hear directly from our market specialists and fellow Singapore company, right, InnovateTech, who already successfully operating on the ground. So of course, today's session will not be possible without our valued partners. I would like to thank Enterprise Singapore for hosting us at their office today, and as well as our valued partners, right, Singapore-German Chamber of Industry and Commerce and Germany Trade and Invest, for their partnership and expertise. So we are privileged to have an esteemed group of speakers with us today, and their collective expertise across the investment, legal, and industry is instrumental for any company looking to successfully navigate the German tech ecosystem. So please make full use of the session today by engaging with the speakers and connecting with your fellow peers here. So I hope this session will give you a clear path forward to our expansion into Europe. So with that, I'll pass back to my colleague Raj. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jez, for setting the tone for what looks like a very insightful and exciting afternoon laid out for all of us. And to begin our program, it is my honor to introduce our first speaker, Ms. Yao Tang. Yao is an experienced professional in cross-border investment promotion with more than 8 years of experience supporting companies expanding between Europe and Asia. As Head of Investment Promotion, ASEAN, at Germany Trade and Invest in Singapore, she advises international companies on Germany's market landscape, location selection, and provides guidance on tax, legal, and financial incentives, all offered free of charge. So that should definitely get everyone's attention. Trilingual in Mandarin, English, and German, Yao has studied and worked across China, Germany, and Singapore, and is deeply committed to helping businesses navigate Europe with practical, actionable insights. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Yao Tang.
Of myself. Yeah, and very nice to meet you, everyone. I'm Yao from Germany Trade and Invest. So I will introduce you today about what is happening in German market about the technology and what are the opportunities there and how you can tap into the opportunity in this market as a gateway to Europe, to European Union. Yeah. Well, let's start with a very short introduction of our organization. So you can consider us as the the EDB equivalent for Germany. So EDB, they help foreign companies set up in Singapore, right? So we help foreign companies to set up in Germany. And we are the official investment and economic development agency of the German federal government and coordinate with all the states. And here also where we are, we have over 400 employees in over 50, have over 50 offices around the world. So for our Singapore office, we are relatively new. We set up 2024 September to cover the Southeast Asian market. It also signals that actually Germany is putting more effort in this region and help the local companies to go there. Okay, so now let's go to the key question you have in your mind: why you should consider Germany for your business, for any tech companies, right? So from conversations with companies expanding to Europe or internationally, there are three reasons that usually repeatedly come into the conversation, and also I summarized it here today. And the first one is its access to Europe's largest enterprise buyer base. And the second is the enterprise purchasing often starts in Germany and it will influence other European markets. The third one is the market demand in Germany is driven really by necessity, not by enthusiasm. So I will walk through these three reasons also briefly later. So the first one about access to Europe's largest enterprise buyer base. You may know that Germany is the biggest economy in Europe or European Union. So it means it's the largest market. However, I want to emphasize that it not only means the largest market, but it means there's a dense concentration of industrial and enterprise technology buyers. So I mean the population is big, so there's a big consumer base, etc. And however, because of the industry dense, there are more companies that are willing to buy and use your technology. And for German companies, around 99%, they are called Mittelstand. It's like SME, but very strong SME specialized in specific technology. They are considered the backbone of German economy, and they now have a very strong demand for long-term B2B technology solutions. Okay. And you can see a comparison with France, with Netherlands and Italy in terms of the software revenue in European Union. And Germany, from the line, the graph, you can see it's very obviously significantly a bigger market than the European market, and the revenue also grow by quite fast rate. Okay, and about the second point, so enterprise purchasing often starts in Germany and scales across Europe. Because Germany, they have so many these very strong industrial companies, and these companies, they are usually export oriented, and they set up a lot of subsidiaries in other European markets. So usually they, if they make decision in Germany, it actually has a big impact in other European markets. So you can see also from there's a map. This map shows the machinery and equipment companies' revenue, and you can have an idea where are these companies located. There are 3 states that are super strong in this industry for this machinery. It's So if you win a German enterprise as your customer, it also unlocks you opportunities across other European markets. So in this sense, it is a gateway. It's not only about geographical gateway, but also about this decision gateway. The next one is about necessity driven. So currently in Germany, there are many things in transformation. And for this digitalization, it's really important because of labor shortage, energy transition, and also the digital backlog, cybersecurity pressure, and all these things, they push the enterprises to modernize, and they need the software's IT services support to get this transformation done. There's also a study you can see from the right side. So if we divide ICT market to hardware, software, and IT services, so IT services still account for the biggest market share, around 32%, but software also has is the fastest growing ICT segment, around 9% CAGR increase, and enterprise software spend exceed USD 50 billion. And all this, it's driven by cloud migration, software, ERP, and AI-enabled platforms. So now we understand what is the motivation behind these companies to choose Germany, to do the business in Germany. Then we also see, I will highlight two areas that I particularly see opportunity in Germany. And these areas, the first one is about industrial AI and enterprise software. InnoWave is actually a good example of industrial AI. So it's about digital solutions used in industry. The industry can mean it's manufacturing, it's energy, healthcare, fintech, for in these areas. And there's complex operations that driving this demand for these technologies. So there's also a survey I cite here from Bitkom. So Bitkom is a very important stakeholder. You need to know it's a Central Digitalization Association, the biggest one for digitalization in Germany. And they did a survey among all the German companies. And for the German companies, they are actually quite open to AI, and 82% of them sees it's quite crucial for their competitiveness, and 42% are already using it. It's just they're facing some lack of expertise and the regulatory hurdles. And currently the largest use of AI is in analytics, and the greatest potential lies in energy management. So the next one I want to highlight is about cybersecurity and digital trust. It's all because of this digitalization. It also has this security problem because your infrastructure needs to be very secured and your data is protected. So for Germany, it's also very important because of the strong data protection culture, and cybersecurity now is considered a very critical mission for the company. And also GDPR and AI governance and explainability demand. Yeah. Okay. So here there's a map of startup clusters. I want to put this here also to give you an idea of where are the clusters in Germany, because this startup cluster actually indicates also the industry cluster in Germany. I would like to, for example, see Berlin, where SGTech takes place. It's a famous hub for fintech and deep tech. There are a lot of startups there, and it's very international. Basically, if you walk on the street or you order coffee, these people will speak English with you instead of German. It's a very international place. And if you go down to Potsdam, it's about MediaTek. There's also very important Dresden. It says Smart System. Actually, it's a very famous city for semiconductor, and many semiconductor players are here. If your software is related to that, that's very important to you. And for Jena, it's about photonics. And we go down to another very strong city, Munich. A lot of companies in, like automotive companies, also InsurTech, security and defense are there. And around this also Nuremberg about healthcare related clusters. And then we also go down to Stuttgart. Stuttgart is also a famous automotive city. So around these areas, actually, they are more about energy, automotives, and AI applications. And if we go up, we can also see, actually, there's Cologne, also InsurTech. There's Düsseldorf. There's medical exhibitions every year about medical devices, and this will take place in Düsseldorf. So it's also a city that's quite famous because of the healthcare industry. Another very important one, I think it's Frankfurt. Yes, it's here. Should be putting that. Because Frankfurt, there's a lot of financial institutions. Basically, all the banks are there. And for Singapore to Germany, there are direct flights usually to Frankfurt and also to Munich. So Frankfurt, because of this location advantage, I know many companies choose it just because there's also a direct flight. So it's quite important in fintech. They also have healthcare related industries. And we go up to have this Hamburg and Bremen. They are very strong in logistics, especially Hamburg. It's the largest port in Germany. Yeah. And these maps may also give you an idea of where your initial customers can be. For example, I know companies that they deal with German startups first, because as a startup, the decision making is faster and it's easier to convince. They do with startup first and then scale to other like bigger companies. Here's where the startups, industries, and business models. A highlight is that 26% are around ICT. And I also want to show you some cases of Southeast Asian companies expanding to Germany, apart from Innovate today. So the blue label one are those I work with directly, and without blue label, it's just from our database, they expanded to Germany. You can see FPT software, FPT and CMC, they are both Vietnamese companies providing IT services, and both of them already in Germany. For FPT, they started quite early in 2014, 15, and now they have 4 offices around Germany. There's also YY Group. It's a Singapore company. They do on-demand staffing, so it's HR tech. They set up in Hamburg. Then Technosoft Automotive. It's a dealer. It's a software to manage dealers for the automotive sector. Parcel Perform is about parcel tracking, e-commerce related. In-mind Cloud, like Cyfirma is cybersecurity. And the other 2 is about digital identity and AI. So all these companies set up business in Germany because they want to serve the European market and serve their German clients better. So listening to all these, why they go there and what are the market landscape look like, you may also wondering how can we help you? How can GTI help you here in Singapore? So for us, we understand that you have many challenges when you access a new market. For example, you don't know what it looks like for your industry in Germany, and you don't know what about the tax, the legal information. And Germany is also very big. It has 16 states. Where if I set up something, where should I go? So we all provide all this information for you for free. It's about market information, tax, funding, and site selection support. So yeah, I would say Germany is not the easiest market for you to tackle. However, it is definitely one of the most strategic ones and can enable your solution to scale in Europe. Here's my contact details, and if you are interested, let's connect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yao, for the excellent overview of Germany's innovation ecosystem. Our next session now focuses on the critical legal and compliance considerations when scaling into Germany and Europe. Again, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Maximilian Kressner, partner at Luther LLP. Dr. Kressner advises European companies and startups on their investments and operations across Asia Pacific, particularly in Singapore. His expertise spans corporate law, governance, compliance, including data protection and anti-bribery regulations, joint ventures, and cross-border M&A. He also supports clients in structuring investment funds and serves on the boards of several international corporations in Singapore. Please welcome Dr. Maximilian Kressner.
Hello everyone, thank you for having me. You heard the introduction. So I'm a German lawyer by background, based here with Luther, which is a German law firm. Has a Singapore presence since about 15-20 years. And we have regional offices also, so traditionally we advise a lot of the European clients with their investments in the region, but in the recent years we also see more and more interest from Singapore and companies in the region to go and enter the European market. I think other than for Singapore, in Germany the legal considerations are a bit more important, I think, with setup and a bit more comprehensive, the things that you have to take into account. So my slides are quite comprehensive, but also the idea that I think they can be shared with you afterwards, so you can have a bit more detail. So I will not be able to cover everything in detail, but idea is to give you an overview of the most important considerations that you would usually have. So I will talk about generally the market entry in Germany, basics of setting up a company, registrations and typical employment practices, tax overview, touch a bit on funding programs, and also quite important, the EU AI Act and the GDPR, the General Data Protection Obligation that we also already mentioned as an important part for compliance with the EU market. Market entry in Germany was quite small print. Generally, so that's the good news. Traditionally, Germany is open to foreign investment. Yeah, there are no blanket restrictions on foreign direct investment or on foreign ownership for companies. There are screenings, foreign direct investment screenings, that have increased also in recent times, given the geostrategic challenges. But the focus is more risk-based and sector-specific, and the foreign direct investment screening regime is currently only focused on investments in existing German companies. So it doesn't cover greenfield investments. Greenfield investments are generally not restricted in terms of foreign direct investment regulations. So you have various sectors. Generally, the ones that are not too surprising, that are defense, IT security, crypto technology, and then you have cross-sector regimes, specifically in the critical infrastructure and critical technologies area. These can be quite wide, so sectors such as energy, telecoms, cloud storage, media, AI, robotics, semiconductors, cybersecurity, aerospace, quantum computing, and certain pharma and medtech. And there you would generally have ownership or voting thresholds that trigger notifications, approval requirements. So that's something to take into account, but again, only if you're planning to invest in an existing German company or buy assets of an existing German company into your own structure. the trend is that this is tightening a bit, so it's an important consideration to take into account when you plan to enter the German market. Other than that, the general steps to setting up presence in Germany are similar to what you would know from the region. You can start with just a presence there that does not really have a legal setup. I have put a representative office in parentheses because we don't have a legal equivalent to a representative office in Germany. So it's more factual setup, yeah, and you have maybe an employee there that is hired over a employer of record entity or something like that, and that's generally for non-commercial activities. Then proper setups usually start with a branch office, joint venture with the existing German company, or setting up your own entity. Doing business in Germany, that's pretty similar. This slide, usually I have these slides for Singapore as well, so it's not too different. Germany has a very strong rule of law, hardly any corruption. It's civil law based, so that means Singapore common law based. So in the civil law jurisdiction, Germany, we have a much broader regulation in written laws. Yeah, so that usually means that a lot of the business processes, when you talk about licenses, setting up entity, hiring people, etc., they are much more regulated and with written law. Yeah, so it's much less up to the discretion of the authorities. What it brings is generally you have a greater certainty of what the rules are, also how the rules are applied. And if you feel that the outcome is not in your favor, you can challenge them easily. Yeah, and they can almost every this authoritative decision in Germany, decision by a public authority, can be challenged quite easily in an administrative court in Germany. You have freedom of contract. So generally in your commercial relationships, but you have quite some protections, especially when you deal with consumers. That's due to the EU regulations. So that's something always to take into account when we talk about terms and conditions of your services. What are the consequences of certain contractual terms, etc. That's a bit more restricted and covered than in Singapore, that usually relies heavily just on what is in your contract. You have strong protection of property, contracts, intellectual property. As Xiao mentioned already, the access to the German market does not only provide you with access to Germany, but generally to the whole European market. Yeah, so it's part of one consideration also, when you think about entering the EU as a whole, to which extent Germany provides you with an advantage in general for the EU market as a first stepping stone. What was also mentioned earlier, Germany is a federal state. Yeah, so that means we have 16 states within the federation. That generally does not have a big impact when it comes to general corporate law, the type of entities that you can set up, residency requirements, FDI restrictions, but it can be relevant for some tax incentives, for tax regimes. Yeah, they can differ a little bit from state to state. What can be provided, it can be relevant for incentives and subsidies, for provision of land, for instance, and also for some employment-related topics such as collective agreements, unions, etc. A quick slide on the venture capital market in Germany. The annual volume of VC investment in Germany, in German or startups that are based in Germany, has stabilized in the past 2 years around 7.1 to 7.4 billion euros. That's roughly, I think, at least to the numbers that you can find, equivalent to the investments that you have in ASEAN as a whole. typical players are also the usual ones. In Germany, we have independent VC funds. Quite strong, especially in tech industries, are the corporate ventures, corporate venture capital arms or subsidiaries. You have public and semi-public actors that usually co-invest, for instance, if there's an institutional investor. You have business angels and private investors, and you also have foreign investors like the big American firms that usually come in at a later stage. So when the tickets are a bit bigger, then you would also see quite a strong commitment of US firms. The usual deal structures and stages are also quite similar from what you would know from Singapore. You have a standard private limited company as your vehicle, as your holding vehicle, and the investors usually in the pre-seed and seed stages, they will use convertible loans and at seed equity at the later stages with preference shares as the investment instruments. So quite the usual. And at the later stage, Series A, B, you will have larger rounds, often with multi-investor syndicates. Basics of setting up a company. I borrowed this from my colleague in Germany. What are the expectations? With how much paperwork you have to deal, and what is the reality? Digitalization is, especially when it comes to the public service, is still, this is one of the points that is quite different from state to state, but I think generally is an area where Germany still has to catch up, especially with Singapore. A lot is still quite paper-based, and we have a strong tradition of the notary. So the notary needs to be involved when incorporating a company, when issuing shares. So everything that is done here, essentially with the company secretary and with ACRA in Germany, that equivalent, everything needs to go to the notary. And the notary usually requires, that you are present in front of him, that things are signed wet ink, documents have an apostille, so that's still quite formalistic. So still a bit of paperwork, but not as bad as maybe sometimes you would imagine it. The legal forms, just to touch briefly, is also the typical ones that you would know. You have partnerships and corporations, the most often used, the GmbH, which is equivalent to a private limited company. And then there's other iterations of the partnerships that are not so common in the English law world, but for an investor and a setup for their holding or operations entity, you would usually have the private limited company as the most common vehicle. So the 5 steps to set up a company is you need to decide generally also on all the corporate or how the corporate structure should look like. You need to involve the notary. The notary will help to draft the documents like the shareholders agreement or the constitution, will help with making all the registrations in the registry. Then also no surprise, you need to set up a bank account. To my understanding, that's a little bit easier than setting up a bank account in Singapore nowadays. German banks are still happy to operate a business account. Singapore banks not so much. Share capital has to be paid in. Also, in Germany, like in Singapore, you have still a nominal share capital. So the share capital, generally follows €1, 1 share. The idea, so you're less flexible than in Singapore with your capital structure. And then once the company is set up, you have to register with the commercial and trade offices and other institutions. I have another slide for that. Okay. You have a suite of registrations that need to be done. Yeah, just putting it out here is the usual registration with the commercial register, the tax office, social security, statistical office, employer's liability insurance. So that's actually fairly similar to what you would need to do in Singapore, but with the caveat that not everything can be done just online generally. We don't have a core pass equivalent in Germany. A lot is generally manual. Tax. That's unfortunately not a slide that that is the most convincing for you to come to Germany, but it is what is common outside of Singapore and maybe Hong Kong in the South world, that taxes are higher on the business side, but also on the personal level. So roughly, Germany, the tax that you have to pay as a business is largely split up between the corporate income tax and the trade tax. This split is generally due to the fact that the tax is collected by the various levels in Germany. So you have the federal level, you have the state level, you have the community level, and your tax as a business to tax your income would generally be in the range of 25 to 30%. Yeah. You have capital gains tax, which is generally 25% plus this 0.82% solidarity surcharge. Solidarity surcharge, just that you know where this comes from. This comes from the reunification of Germany and the increased cost for the reunification that was introduced 30 years ago. Solidarity, to help the integration, and as you know, once a tax is introduced, you keep it. It's you do not let it go away easily. So capital gains generally also paid on dividends. The good thing is that between Germany and Singapore there is a double taxation agreement in place that reduces the withholding tax on dividends. That if you have a successful entity in Germany that generates profits and you want to expatriate them to Singapore, to the holding for instance, the withholding tax is generally reduced to 5% only on the dividends if you hold more than 10% shares in the German entity. Otherwise it would be 10%, but that's a significant reduction on the general tax on dividends that would need to be paid. Income for a private person, if you think about moving there or you have employees, and to understand what salaries you would need to pay and what the net salary will be effective. So the income tax can range up to 45%. The effective tax for an annual salary of 70,000 euros, that's roughly 100,000 Sing, is in the range of 24%. Yeah, so that's what the Singapore highest tax bracket is for 70k salary. And then you have all the social security contributions, etc., church tax if you're a member of a church. Employment practices, you need to get a work permit. Yeah, there's various work ideas in place for work options in place if you want to move to Germany. The focus is, of course, the better your qualifications are. If you work in sectors that are high demand, the easier it will be and the faster it will be for you to get a work visa. Every employee has to pay social security contributions, and the employment law is very employee friendly in Germany. That's something to take into account. You have extensive protections against termination. You have extensive leave regulations, maternity protection, paternity protection, sick leave protections. So that's quite a bit stricter from an employer perspective than what you would be used to in in Singapore. You can maybe think of it more like if you're familiar with Indonesia, for instance. So those regimes that have a highly protective employment laws, and also in Germany, once your company is a bit bigger, or if you're in a unionized area, the unions have a very strong say. Watching the time a little bit, funding programs was mentioned earlier already. I mean, you have various funding programs on the federal level and on the state level, so that's again something to take into account when you think about which location in Germany is the right for you. To check out the different incentives that can be provided. Generally speaking, the incentives in Germany, they require that you have a local presence, but it's not required that you have local shareholding. In Singapore, a lot of or almost all government incentives that I'm aware of usually require at least a minimum of 30% local shareholding. You don't have that in Germany. You don't need local shareholding to be eligible generally, but you can have sometimes, of course, depending on the program, that you would want to see cooperations with research institutions, universities, or local businesses. Funding instruments, mentioned earlier already, convertible loan notes in Germany. Usually I compare it to Singapore. Singapore, if you're familiar, we have various instruments, convertible notes, care, safe, that's the various instruments to write. Singapore being a melting pot of different also funding, I think, philosophies. You have the US, you have the Asian ones. In Germany, it's generally convertible loan or equity, and there is no one standard in Germany. From the US or here in Singapore, this VIMA kit, it's very useful, right, for investors, but also for startups alike. You have this agreed standards and templates that exist, so at least you have a common ground there they can start with. In Germany, you don't really have that, so it's a bit more an individual negotiated document that you would need to do with a lawyer generally. And the two important things that regulations that we mentioned earlier, the AI Act, that's will be increasingly important, especially right for everyone using to a certain extent AI, artificial intelligence, in their product, in their operations. The AI Act and the EU regulation approach or philosophy is a bit different than what you would see, for instance, in Singapore or in the region. I would qualify the local approach to be more to see the benefits of AI and to be supportive for it, and to encourage. I think Singapore government encourages a lot the use and adaptation of AI for its businesses. Also in the legal sphere, we can see that there is a lot of incentives and push actually done. The European approach is a bit more on the cautious side, so the focus is a little bit more on the risks, or not a little more, it's mainly on what risks that the use of AI can bring to the people, so it's this human rights perspective that is underlying there. So the regulation tries to protect the people, and the risks associated with AI. The approach is depending on how your system, your usage is qualified. You have an unacceptable risk that would mean that the use of such AI is prohibited in the EU. Examples are social scoring, dark patterns, or biometric identification for law enforcement. So what I think you would see is common in China, for instance, that would be unacceptable in the EU. You have high-risk areas that are allowed but come with a comprehensive list of duties, and you have the limited risk, that is the general use, chatbots, AI, generated images, emotion detection, that comes with a lower set of requirements. The requirements are usually that you have to have a risk management system in place, you have to have a robust data governance, technical documentation, there must be human oversight, quality management systems, you must be transparent. Yeah, so the focus is a lot on ensuring that you know what your system is about. Yeah, that you are aware of the technical, the technical capabilities and limitations that the system has, and the inherent risks that are associated, right, with automated decision making. This is the usual slide. Violations can be very expensive. Yeah. GDPR, so that's the General Data Protection Regulation. To close that off, that was usually the first slide on this topic, but since AI became more important, the AI Act now is the one where everyone is interested about. The GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, is can be seen as this gold standard data protection regime that you have worldwide in the place. GDPR was the role model for a lot of data protection regimes also in the region. PDPA was in place earlier in Singapore, but was also amended to be a bit more closer to the ideas and concepts of the GDPR. Generally speaking, if you are well aware of the Singapore data protection requirements and obligations, you are not so far off from also being able to comply with the GDPR. You would have a bit more stricter obligations in terms of record keeping, maybe, and in terms of how easily consent can be used or not. But the general ideas are the same. You would need to have a legitimate basis for the processing of the data, and that's that. GDPR applies to every business that is based in the EU. So as soon as you establish a business presence, you are covered. But it covers already businesses that are not established in the EU but target. Yeah? So the specific targeting of the EU market can be enough to fall within the scope. Then the checklist, I give it to you later for further studying. You need to establish a policy. You need to see the processes that you need to put in place. A data protection officer is not mandatory, so that's a bit of a more lenient requirement compared to the PDPA in Singapore. You only need to have a data protection officer generally if you have a more complex data processing operations, or your processing activities concern sensitive data areas. Emphasis, of course, also on the data security that you need to put in place. Benefit if you have a robust AI Act and GDPR compliance is, of course, that is usually required when you look into business partners. They would have their comprehensive supplier, vendor checklists and questionnaires, where data protection is one of the big topics that they would want to have your confirmation, warranties, etc., that you comply, and also when it comes to investors, that's something that is just a requirement that everyone has to fulfill nowadays. All right, that was it. So thank you very much.
Not only for the presentation, but bringing us through the fine print of everything. Next, we hear from a Singaporean company that has successfully made Germany part of its growth journey. I'm delighted to introduce Mr. Shi Jin-song, founder and CEO of InnoWave-Tech. Mr. Shi is a former senior semiconductor executive with deep expertise in digital transformation, manufacturing intelligence, and agentic AI. Under his leadership, InnoWave-Tech, an IMDA-accredited industrial AI company, has grown to a team of over 50 experts delivering advanced AI solutions to global semiconductor and technology blue-chip firms across Asia and Europe. An IMDA Digital Leader 2025, Mr. Shi is also an active mentor and speaker bridging cutting-edge technology with real business impact. Mr. Shi Jin Song. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Very happy to have opportunity here to just share a little bit of our experience or some learnings through our global expansion journey. Let me do some quick introduction of innovative tech. So as one of technology companies in helping in semiconductor technology transformations, so we are actually dedicated to work on the latest technology. What are the something can helping to transform the traditional way of manufacturing technology? Because we have really, myself also experienced a lot of challenges, firefighting every day in the semiconductor. So because there's process challenges and all the equipment issues, that's why our solution or our aim, vision is trying to adopt the technology, especially now AI is very fast progressing. So we adopt those latest technology to how to transfer the know-how into fixed technology solutions. I think one of the reasons we think about to have an expansion at the different regions is with the global. I think this is a tailwind. Everywhere is setting up new factories because of supply constraints, supply risk. So our clients is also expand their global manufacturing sites in different regions. So that's one of the good opportunity for us to expand, follow our current customer footprint. So that's one of the key objective we wanted to solve for industry is current key skill gap. When you grow the new factories in some new regions, always take a few years to train the people to be able to support the manufacturing without the quality issue, without the efficiency loss. That's why I believe the technology is perfected to helping make the manufacturing autonomous or make the manufacturing simple by incorporate the knowledge into the autonomous operation. So that's where the AI agent we are working on. So to simple explain, the AI agent is a kind of augment or simulate what the human or the engineer or experts, what they sensing, what they see, what they hear, right? And also the other data which they can diagnose, then into a judgment process. Then the judgment process also able to execute, act at the same time. So that is how industry AI works. So as just mentioned on the regulations, so this structure of AI agent is 100% transparent, explainable, and also is very foundation of very basic request is to be accurate, 100% accurate. Cannot make like any based on the give a rough decisions. That is not suitable for industries. So meanwhile, to make it able to execute different factory environment, that's why we also have our solution designed to do the edge executing or edge reasoning. So that's for different factory equipments, including some of the legacy equipments. So I think I will skip this, but this basically explain some differences with large language model driven driven of agent, which now is very popular in office assist versus industry agent, which has to be in the few sectors like explainable, error rate must be zero, and also is self-learning, but to be learned better and better, but not by general knowledge, but rather than is learning from true data. Yeah, so here are some typical applications. I will not go through too details, but generally our few solutions they can orchestrate in the same platform. That's also part of improvement or evolvement of the AI agent industry. They are not working alone as an individual software. They can real time to call up to the agent protocols to call different agent or different engine to work on the same more complex tasks. So there are some customer feedback on how it really significant improvement, especially on the response time. So it's scalable, so that's why we don't really get the bottleneck. So actually, one sometimes think about how AI can help in the industry. It's not only a lot of people focus on maybe it will be reduce the job, but in the most of the case, especially our customer, we don't see any of our customer is reducing the it's rather than increase the capacity, because it's mainly to solve. They are using it to mainly solve the bottleneck. But once you have the bottleneck is solved, the factory they are happy to expand their capacity at a lower cost. So that's a different way of think about how AI can help in our industry. But happy also to share some of our customer within few months they see a very drastic improvement, which is published in the industry magazine. And also one of our customer is TSMC and NXP joint venture. We are after 1 year we win the best supplier for the digital transformation. As well in last year's Slingshot, we are win the Tommy. It's the Tommy winner from 6,000 over global tech companies. Yeah, here I think some of our solutions we actually combine it together because it's a more complete solution through the agent collaboration. It's a bit different structure compared to traditional of many layers of architecture in the manufacturing process or in factory. So actually offer some packaged solution. For example, we can package some of the zero defect, which are more focused on defect reductions with the equipment real-time monitoring and as well the interventions when they detect abnormality. So that become a total package of TQM. So some of our clients is through this packaged solution to go faster to implement to see bigger impact. Some of the capability that also we enable. Some is actually in Singapore company we work together to enable the equipment to be smart and all system could be paired together to go to market. So one of the example, Nanofilm, last year we go together to Japan market to show how our zero defect control with their equipments to benefit customer for the better efficiency and the better quality controls. So that's some of the example, but we also have some solutions enable the equipment maker to be the technology intelligence leader in the sectors. So become first in market equipments by just enabling AI into their system, because the internal always there are some constraints and limitation. Okay, so then I talk about our view of how we assess the German market. Before we really decided to go to Germany, we have a few, I think at least 2 years, we start to explore the market. Either speak in Electronica the year before, and also we participate in Semicon Europe, and some of the events we do the network discussions with potential customer, potential partners until we confirm the market. We have a secured customer, then we accelerate the journey to set up the entity in Germany. One of our feedback is, I think this is some different view I just discussed with Tanya on the different view of how fast the German company accept, maybe adopt the new solutions or new vendors. Our view actually is very fast because the a lot of decision power is at engineer level. So once you convince the engineer team, they can make a decision really fast and convince the management team to accept. So, but the other way is if you go from top approach, it may not be as in Singapore so effective when you get the CEO aligned, then it can be fast improvement. So these are big differences, but in general, we see about 80% of people engage their interest and they has immediate follow-up actions. So that's something I believe this rate is pretty is much higher than Singapore so far I see in terms of immediate response. As long as you can convince the ROI is there, I think it's very engineer thinking backed for German engineers. So as long as the solution they think is benefit for them and also helping their daily processes, they are welcome to discuss and go to the next phase. German, the office, actually the location we select is Silicon Saxony, is the Saxony area. It's one of the semiconductor hub. It's not only German semiconductor hub, it's actually the whole Europe semiconductor hub. Many of the giant companies, including the newly established ESMC, TSMC Europe factories, Global Foundry and Bosch, all the giants actually is clustered in the area. So for us, like start with the one focused industry, this is a one perfect solution because we don't need to really running around different maybe different regions, but we just can focus on one region. We can have a very big customer pool. Similar for Singapore, we from east to north with only 1 hour. Similar in Silicon Saxony. I think that's one of the quite ideal location for us to expand to the different country. Okay, so I think the last page is some of the challenges we're facing. I think always when come to a new country, the execution, how to deliver and execute is also always a challenge. So I think also to establish trust and branding is also takes some time. So that's one of the reasons 2 years ago we started to give the talk in like a quite prestige event like Electronica Automotive Conference. Either sometime my counterpart or myself is going to have some of the engagement first to get the people aware of such solutions at the company, so gradually to build the trust. Then I think another important, I believe, is really the collaborations to find the right partners go together. So some event, for example, we go to different events, we might partner with some of the Singapore companies together, become like a total solutions. That also saves some cost. In German, so far in our hiring process of business development, I believe that the cost is quite significantly higher than Singapore. At least I know for the experienced business development people or people to explore the market. So that's why I believe there's a lot of potential. Happy to work with any people want or any company interested to go German. We're happy to maybe kind of a common partners approach. If the market is similar, well, this is one of my idea of thinking. Always good to partner together. Okay, so I think this is also one of the key points. We are the technology partner for Siemens as well. So some of the partnership with tech giants always help because it's also build the branding, also help in some of the events we go together in towards the same industry. We had the sustainable manufacturing, so-called SSAM manufacturing center. This is together with Siemens in ERTC. If any people have time, happy to visit there, so we can arrange to see some of the real demo. Okay, so I think that's the last page. We actually did quite a lot of market event plan with IMDA, with the government to have a customer to share the success stories. So it's a journey slowly built, but I think in the German we hope to partner with some of the Singapore companies together to reach out to the industry. Okay, thank you. That's a brief sharing.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much, Raj, also for the introduction, and also from my side, a very good afternoon to everyone. It's my pleasure to be here with you today and to moderate this upcoming panel. My name is Arik. As mentioned already, I'm heading the Trade Promotion Department at the Singaporean-German Chamber of Industry and Commerce. SGTech is a very valued partner for us, and we do a lot of events together, whether it's missions, mostly for us, missions coming to Singapore, but of course, hopefully also in the future, missions going to Germany, for example. So just now, I think you had the chance to gather many interesting insights today with, I think, a lot of information to process first. But nevertheless, we now also have the opportunity with our expert speakers to give you some room for questions through this panel. Therefore, I want to also take up Raj's invitation once again that you can ask your questions either in between or at the end of this panel. Therefore, if you have a question, please just signal it to me. Otherwise, I'll just ask away, and then at the end, I will just give you some time once again. So to start off, I would like to ask a question to all our speakers, and maybe starting with Yao. So you mentioned already there's certain demands and gaps that are in Singapore, in Germany, and which Singaporean tech companies can fill. So where would you say are really the strongest demand gaps? I mean, we have the one example with Jinsong, with industrial AI, and you mentioned also other areas of automation, but is that really like the key areas where you would say there's the gaps in the market in Germany?
Thank you for the question. I think generally speaking, digitalization, this area really match Germany. For Singapore and Germany, this direction. Because generally speaking, Germany is very good at hardware, good at engineering, this factory. However, these days we talk about modernization, talk about AI, we talk about put things to cloud and digitalization. So, and these things, Germany is not as, for example, China or Singapore really have digital identity. These things are really, they work very hard on it. So any digital solutions is also part of our focus to really encourage the companies to explore the opportunities in German market. And because technology, this idea is very wide. It expands from industry to energy to healthcare to financial industry. So a bit hard to comment on this very broad areas, but I'm happy to talk to individual companies. It really depends on your also your product, whether it fits German market and or not. So yeah.
For you, Max, do you have something that you see maybe also with the companies coming not only from Singapore but Southeast Asia coming to Germany? Any gaps that you also identify there?
I think it's a really good time for almost everything. Yeah, I mean, as you may be aware, right? Germany is struggling with the deindustrialization. Right, the core of the industry or of the economy is the classic industrial sectors, and we have gaps in a lot of the areas of modern technology, software, everything tech related. So it's really here. Open doors, and I think what also is a interesting trend, I think, is that there is this tendency now, I think I've seen discussions in Germany to get a bit, or to get, in the whole EU, to get more independent of the American technology, right? So it's really high in demand to establish own solutions, new solutions, diversify the also providers that you have. So I would not pinpoint it down to just very specific areas, but I think there's really demand in many areas that are tech related. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's also a great invitation and for Singaporean technologies. Yeah, maybe then also for Jinsong, like, what is your perspective? Of course, you have your industry and your solutions, but do you also see beyond that, with your experience, your journey now into Germany, where you would say, hey, this is really where Singapore tech can find a place?
Yes, I think I actually did the comparison, the Singapore and the German, so there are quite a lot of similarities. One is the labor cost relatively is very high. Second, also the skill gap for certain more emerging or